Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the January 25th, 2012 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee. It'll now come to order. Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Baroth.
Here.
Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Haney.
Here.
Chairman Howland is excused. Mr. Rocco.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
President Adair.
Here.
Okay. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Okay. Is there anyone present who's not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Okay, I guess not. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the November 30th, 2011 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee before you. They'll stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Okay, the next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 12-0031, amending resolution.
Second, sir.
Okay, motion by Legislator Rockow, seconded by Legislator Colby. For this item, I'd like to ask the administration to give us a brief summary.
My name is Angela Veltri. I'm currently the Acting Aviation Director. Hello, everybody. In June of 1994, the legislature adopted Local Law Number 4, which amended the airport law and authorized the imposition of off-airport fees. The fees were to be established from time to time by resolution of the Monroe County Legislature. So the local law itself did not establish the fees, but the fees were established by the Ledge. Since that time, since 1994 and the establishment of those initial fees, the fees have not been updated at all. And also since that time in 1994, the airport has not had any off-airport parking concessionaire. In the fall of 2011, the airport was issuing an RFP for the car rental concession. And during that time, it was discussed with the car rental concessionaires who were proposing on that RFP, as well as airport administration. When we reviewed these fees, we felt that they should be updated to the current industry standards. During the pre-bid meeting for that RFP, this was discussed with the potential proposers, and that was written into the addendum that was distributed with that RFP. And also in the contract for the one company who does currently operate off-airport, it was also written into that contract language that said that the airport was considering updating that fee. So today before you is this referral to bring this fee up to current industry standards, which would be 10% of the gross revenues, and it only pertains to the customers of the car rental concession or a potential parking concession, only in the instance where they transport, where they pick up or drop off customers to the airport.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So this will only apply to one car rental company, is that?
That is correct, sir.
And there are no parking companies that this will apply to? There
is one off-airport parking company right on Brooks Avenue, but that parking operation, does not transport its customers to the airport. Those folks actually cross Brooks Avenue on foot to the terminal.
Good heavens. What is the percentage in Buffalo and Syracuse, do you know?
Yes, through the chair, Buffalo currently has a graduated fee structure up to 10%, and Syracuse charges 8%. And the Albany Airport also has a graduated fee up to 10%.
Okay, thank you.
Legislator Colby?
Just for clarification, through you, Mr. Chairman, if another rental company came in, we would accept them under the same terms?
Through the chair,
For same fees, right?
yes,
We're just
that's
not
correct.
limiting it, because the way you answered the question, it almost sounded like that we weren't looking at any other companies. But if another company came in, we would accept them as an off-airport rental.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Legislator Baroff?
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, what is the anticipated revenue of these new fees?
Through the chair, at this point in time, it's difficult to ascertain exactly what the revenue would be. The current off-airport car rental concessionaire has only been in business through, for the last 3 months of 2011. And for that period of time, and note that we're still in the year-end process and we've not yet finalized all of our numbers, but what the concessionaire has reported to us in gross revenues is approximately $213,000.
Thank you. And in comparison to the other rental companies that currently operate out of the airport, what are their approximate gross revenues? Is it comparable, greatly more, or not?
Well, for the entire fiscal year of 2011, the total revenue the total gross revenues collected by all of the car rental concession operators was $31 million.
Okay. But do you have an idea of how much of that came in during the same period of time this new rental company was in operation?
Through the chair, the total was $31 million for the year, and approximately $7 million was taken in the last quarter. So do that math for me.
And-
I'm terrible at doing math in my head. Approximately $24 million was taken in during the first, you wanted just I'm sorry. The last 3 months, the total gross sales was $7 million of all the car rental concessionaires.
Thank you. And through the chair, that includes the new one as well, correct?
That is correct, yes, through the chair.
And through the chair, I assume, since you mentioned this was in the contract, is it expected this affected company will, in fact, continue the regular service even after such a new fee would take effect? That's an expectation?
Through the chair, during our conversations in pre-bid and when we went through the contract process with this concessionaire, they had no objections whatsoever to our changing the fee.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair, is it the case that the airport authority has taken an official position on this new fee to date or not? Has it been addressed by them yet or not?
Through the chair, yes. The Monroe County Airport Authority did authorize the increase in fee at the December meeting.
Thank you. And finally, is it reasonable to suspect that the fees charged by this particular rental company will increase after this new fee is imposed?
Through the chair, I don't have any information to that, that nature of whether they would increase fees or not.
Okay. Through the chair of the administration, was there any opportunity or will there be any opportunity before this fee takes effect that you might have or someone representing the airport might have a conversation with this particular company regarding how their fee structure may change as a result of this new fee?
Through the chair, we don't control the car rental concessionaire's fees.
Okay. Then, through the chair, one final question / point, and then I guess it's fair to say then that any time a new fee or, dare I say, tax is imposed upon a company, typically this is passed on to the consumer, and I think it's reasonable to expect that this would happen in this case. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. Then I'd like to All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Should we have a roll call?
Yeah, roll call vote.
Okay. Roll call. You say you?
I do. Mr. Ansello?
Yes.
Mr. Baroth? No. Mr. Colby?
Yes.
Mr. Haney? Yes. Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox? No. President Adair?
Yes.
5-2, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Next item, referral 12-0032, amend resolution to...
Okay, with this item also, I'd like to
You have to say moved by,
ask the administration for...
say it's moved.
Oh, okay.
Moved by Legislator Rocco.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, seconded by Legislator Colby. And with this item, too, I'd like to ask the administration for a brief summary.
Thank you. In 1995, Frontier Telephone approached the airport in response to complaints received from their customers regarding lack of capacity. At that point in time, customers were having issues in and around the airport with cell phone service. So they approached the airport, asked administration at that time if they could construct a cell tower on airport property. They filled out the appropriate paperwork, and in April of 1996, the FAA approved a structure not to exceed 80 feet. Since that time, there has been a lease in effect with Frontier Telephone, who eventually changed their name a couple of times, but we were at the point in the lease where there was a renewal period, and airport administration contacted the county's real estate division, Tim Murphy, and asked for his assistance in negotiating a higher lease amount with Frontier or Verizon. At the point in time, last fall, the annual lease amount was approximately $8,752, and that had not changed much from the initial lease amount back in 1996 of $7,200 annually. So Mr. Murphy helped us in negotiating that lease, and the new lease amount is $16,000 per year with a 3% increase each year thereafter. All the other terms and conditions of the lease remain the same.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Legislator Colby.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. I noticed there's nothing in this lease about, and I know some other tower sites, both private and public, when they put about collating when another firm wants to come on the tower. Is there any address about collating on this tower, or and if not, why not?
Through the chair, this monopole is considered a capacity-only tower, and it does not allow for co-location antennas. So there would be no additional revenue to be obtained from.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Legislator Baroff.
Through the chair to the administration, just a follow-up question on Legislator Colby's question, and that is it possible under the current lease for that tower to be modified or changed, or is any such change would require a new agreement?
Through the chair, any such change would require an amendment to the agreement, but I believe that because of the height of this tower, there is a height restriction because the tower is located at the airport. It cannot exceed 80 feet, and typically monopoles exceed 120 feet when there are co-location antennas installed. So I believe that it can't be done because of the height.
Correct, but through the administration through the chair to the administration, but if technologically that were to evolve, they would still require an amendment, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion passes.
next item is referral 12-0040, amend resolution.
Motion by legislator Rockow, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, as I understand this, the fee is being increased from $75,000 to $225,000, which is a 200% increase. Why?
Through the chair, Justin Roy with Environmental Services. The fee is increasing because the county has chosen T.Y. Lin to handle all these responsibilities for the county, which we previously handled with internal staff. This will actually result in a net savings to the county of about $20,000 to $30,000 annually over the life of the contract.
But we're increasing the contract $150,000 to save $20,000 to $30,000?
Correct. There were two prior positions in the prior DES budget that were eliminated, and that generated about $180,000 of a savings. So therefore, when you deduct the increase in the contract, you net about $30,000 a year.
So there's $180,000 that has already been saved. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. There were two prior, through the chair, there were two prior employees who conducted these tasks that are no longer with the county, and we're now using outsourcing basically these services to T.Y. Lin to accomplish the same task at a lower cost.
Through the chair, were these two positions abolished in relationship to the initial $75,000 contract, or in anticipation of this increased contract?
Through the chair, this was as part of meeting our budget goals for 2012. DES anticipated outsourcing this function and eliminated the positions.
So the 2012 budget abolishes two positions, which with benefits have a cost of about $180,000, and now there's another position going to be abolished, saving between $20,000 and $30,000?
No, the net increase in the contract, as you stated, is correct, is $150,000. The two positions that were abolished saved the county $180,000, so there's a net savings of $30,000 that accrues to the county through making this change.
Oh, so the $150,000 increase relates to the $180,000 for the two positions that were abolished?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the $30,000 is a net savings.
Correct.
Okay. And the original $75,000 contract, was that, through the chair, were there savings offsetting that, or was this a normal thing that we did all the time?
Through the chair, we had a prior $75,000 not to exceed contract for into $75,000 to supplement our internal staff.
Okay.
With the elimination of our internal staff, we found the need to increase the contract through the chair.
Okay. So the bottom line is that there's a $20,000 to $30,000 a year saving in this.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Barath?
Thank you. Through the Chair of the Administration, regarding these two positions that were eliminated in this last budget cycle, could you please describe what the nature of the expertise that are required for these two positions? If they're separate positions, then it might require separate explanations.
Through the chair, both positions were involved in code enforcement of our facilities. The county is a self-certifying, if you will, or permitting agency for code enforcement. These individuals would help assess the code compliance in the over 400 structures that the county is responsible for maintaining up to code. and both the positions that were eliminated were involved in the code enforcement function primarily.
Thank you. Through the administration, to the chair of the administration, I note you said primarily. What other responsibilities did these two positions actually encompass that will no longer be taken care of, apparently?
Through the chair, they were involved in some small project management, overseeing maintenance workers that may be involved in painting, patching of drywall, so on and so forth.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, am I correct to assume that because we certified our own employees that there is no particular standard or industry practice that T.Y. Lin has to match, or is there?
Through the chair, there are industry standards. Our folks were certified code compliance officers. T.Y. Lin is certainly has a number of certified code compliance officers, and we're actually very confident of their ability to bring more resources to bear to better ensure code compliance in the future.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, am I correct to assume then that the employees from T.Y. Lin who are code certified or in this field are the ones who will be doing the work and not other employees who are not?
Through the chair, I would expect T.Y. Lin to follow all professional standards to ensure that we remain code compliant in all our facilities. So the short answer would be yes, that would be correct. They would be code certified or certified code compliance officers.
Thank you. My final question through the chair of the administration is how long has the county had a relationship in this matter with T.Y. Lin?
Through the chair, we believe it goes back to about 2007, so roughly 5 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Referral 12-0041, amend Resolution 94.
Motion by legislator Rockow, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, unless I've misread this, which is entirely possible, it sounds like the fee is doubling, but the term of the contract is going to remain the same?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Why is the fee doubling?
Through the chair, the number of projects that we are engaged in of a smaller nature that require these quick turnaround services has increased as the age of our buildings has increased, and quite frankly, the number of large-scale capital projects to fully renovate or replace these buildings has declined.
So in effect, the amount of work being done by these consultants has doubled?
We anticipate that there will be a larger scale work which could lead to potentially the total contract amount doubling. And through the chair, this is a not to exceed amount. We did come very close to spending the full allotment in 2011 and anticipate that our future needs may be on the scale of potentially double, yes.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, does the county have any engineers on its payroll anymore? Has it completely gotten out of the internal engineering business? I mean, engineers other than supervisors? Management? Are there any working engineers on the county payroll anymore?
There are a number of working engineers in the county payroll. We have roughly a half dozen certified engineers, licensed engineers on our payroll.
But they're not capable of doing this work? They don't have the time? I don't mean capable in terms of ability, but in terms of available time?
Through the chair, the project managers, the engineers we have really are involved in project delivery, overseeing the consultants and contractors we have working on a variety of projects, both within county facilities and also our Pure Waters districts. And therefore, when it relates to some of these smaller projects for which we engage our general A&E consultants, we don't have the internal capacity to do that, and sometimes the expertise of the outside consultant community offers exceeds what we have internally.
Okay, thank you.
Any, yes, Legislator Barath?
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, did we in fact have this capacity before? I guess this is a very similar referral to the one we just discussed. Were any positions eliminated from the current budget to make these funds available?
There were no positions eliminated as it relates to this contract. I don't believe any engineering positions were eliminated in the 2012 budget.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, were any positions modified?
Through the chair, no.
Thank you. And I would assume that because this is a modified contract, we've had this in place for a little while. Is it the same time frame as the prior referral, or is it a different time frame when we first started this work with these companies?
Through the chair, the contract term and the number of amendments is not changed by this referral. I believe that there are still 3 or 4 amendments outstanding as it relates to our general term services contract.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Wilcox?
Thank you. Through the chair, the amount, as we've already noted, is doubling for these services. Have you produced any kind of a working draft of a scope of work that may be required regarding the doubling of the services? In other words, do you anticipate an actual doubling of the amount of work that needs to get done?
Through the chair, many times when we engage consultants under this contract, it's for things that arise out of the blue. We'll have, unfortunately, let's say a small, ceiling collapse or what have you. There may potentially be asbestos there that needs to be remediated. We'll therefore engage that consultant to develop a remediation plan. It's many times similar to that. There are some set evaluations we may say through contacts with our client departments. Use the Children's Detention Center as an example. They may ask us to come out and do an assessment of their needs as it relates to their air handling system or their security system, and we'll engage an outside consultant at their behest. So many times we don't, in essence, know the work before it's presented to us by our client departments, and that's really what does drive the need for this contract.
Through the chair, I understand that, and that makes perfect sense. But in order to determine that number, in order to double it, I assume some analysis was done. What type of analysis was done to make you think you might need double the amount rather than quarter the amount or, triple the amount?
Sure. We consistently analyze our needs, and what we did is when we looked here, we said simply, talking to our client departments, their ongoing needs with the aging facilities, what they potentially anticipated. Certainly, as it relates to the departments I've mentioned previously, they've reached out to us already with projects they'd like to us engage on, and quite frankly, some things we held off engaging on in 11, knowing that we didn't have funding available, and that didn't in turn get to the dollar amount that we were looking at in 12. We also, obviously, in addition to the anticipated work from our client departments, wanted to make sure we had a buffer available for those unforeseen events.
Through the chair, thank you for that response. One last question, I think, on this. You said a buffer. So, do you have any idea of the range of that buffer that might be in this amount?
Through the chair, as a reasonable contingency, we look at 20 to 30% potentially to have available above and beyond anticipated expense, for those unanticipated things that may occur.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, then. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Motion passes. Next item, referral 12-0042, authorized contracts.
Okay. Motion by Legislator Rockow, seconded by Legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barath.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I have a few questions. The first is, what other consultants were considered in this process?
Through the chair, anyone that expressed interest for the contract and submitted a proposal via the expression of interest process was considered. I don't have the list of everyone who was considered as part of that process with me. I can certainly provide that.
Please, if you could, I would very much appreciate that. Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, I did want to ask regarding these consultants. There are various consultants out there. Am I correct to assume that each of these consultants can perform all the services listed in this referral?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Excellent. And then my final, well, hopefully final question is, I note that it's capped at $150,000. In the case that the consultants using the framework that's in place based on in this referral were to exceed $150,000, what would happen in that case? Would we simply not do work that we would otherwise request, or would we, in fact, do work and pay more?
Through the chair, we can't exceed the total not to exceed amount authorized by the legislature under the contract.
So in which case, if we had additional work needed to be done that were to exceed $150,000, you would expect then to come forth to this body and ask for an addition or to put off work to the next year?
Through the chair, if it was of immediate need, we would come back to this body.
It would not come from another line or agency?
My understanding is no. That's
Okay.
not possible.
Excellent. Thank you.
Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I correct in assuming that this is $150,000 in the aggregate as opposed to $150,000 per firm?
Through the chair, in the aggregate is correct.
Yeah. And the second question, I'm confused between referrals 42 and 44. They look to my untrained eye, with the exception of the named entities, to be virtually identical. Is there, and I'm sure there's a reason why two separate referrals have been brought forth.
Through the chair, environmental testing usually involves when there is the detection of asbestos before we come up with a remediation plan. What we will do is send that material out for testing to confirm, in fact, it does have asbestos, or let's say we anticipate it may potentially be another hazardous material. It's primarily for those instances where we have to test for asbestos primarily, but also other hazardous materials. The second referral, 44, refers to materials testing, and that's really for building materials testing. That would be concrete borings. It would be the testing of steel, say, provided for a capital project. Other items of that sort.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Yes, Legislator Wilcox.
To the chair, I usually see in these types of referrals some reference to a past contract that the legislature has approved a past contract. I don't see any reference to past contracts. What need has arisen for these particular contracts?
Through the chair, these both contracts for items 40, or excuse me, for referral 42 and 44 have been approved in the past by the legislature.
They have. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other questions? Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Motion passes.
Last item.
Referral 12-0044, authorized contracts with it.
Motion by Legislator Rockow, seconded by Legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Yes, Legislator Broth.
Through the chair of the administration, I suspect I know the answer to this question. What other consultants were considered for this referral?
Through the chair, I don't have that information in front of me, but we will provide it to you. Mr. Helfer has already mentioned that he has that available.
Excellent, thank you. And again, I suspect I know the answer to this question, which is, can all the consultants perform all the services covered in this referral?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. And then finally, this is less a question, it's more a question for the chair. Am I correct that we'll accept, if everyone received the email we received from the administration this afternoon regarding the correction and the clerical error to this referral, that we accept the administration's position that does not need to be referred and we can accept it as is?
Okay. I think I'll ask the administration on that.
That's really a question for you.
All right. Could you repeat
My question is, do we accept as a committee the administration's contention, and I would suggest we do, but we need to, that the administration's correction of a clerical error is acceptable, and we just accept that as is? That we received in the email this afternoon.
Yes, oh, yes, yes.
Thanks. I just wanted that on the record. Thank you.
Yes. Any further discussion? Okay. Huh? Oh, yeah. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Motion passes.
All right, then. Is there any unfinished business to come before the committee? All right. Then, okay, there being no unfinished business, the January 25th, 2012 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee stands adjourned. Our next meeting will be February 29th, 2012 at 5 p.m. Thank you very much.